Yes, we've been using Zudy Vinyl for about 8 months. The version of Zudy that we're on right now is 3.0. So Zudy Vinyl is being hosted in the cloud for us by Zudy, and it's a subscription. It's a SaaS based model, and so it's only available by subscription. My use case for Zudy Vinyl has been the full package for both my front end and my back end of the system. So we're running uh, all of our database information, all of our modeling, all of our calculations, and as well as the front end delivery for the customer through Zudy Vinyl. The features in Zudy Vinyl that I've found to be most valuable have been the fact that we have tried to build several versions of Kong out, and the problem is every time we start off with a new version, we always have to go through this huge rigmarole of setting up all of these tables and all these logics and kind of writing everything from scratch. I don't have to do that with Zudy Vinyl. There's so many of those micro early stage things that are just done for you, and on top of that, it's unbelievably easy to have it work on any device. I have had to do hardly any tweaking from device to device, whereas previously it was very difficult. And those are the things that I like about Zudy Vinyl. For the speed of development of the applications with Zudy Vinyl, it has been the fastest and most powerful that I've been able to do. We've tried building things from scratch. It takes an enormous amount of time. We've cut that time by probably a fifth with more power, and I've been very happy with the speed of being able to do things in Zudy Vinyl. So the custom application we built with Zudy Vinyl has been Kong the entire process. And what we do is we compress probably 60 hours worth of manual paperwork, and we get it done for the contractor in about an hour. And so there's a lot of hoops that we have to go through in order to make that happen. And there was a lot of things that were not off the shelf that I needed. And we actually attempted to build Kong 5 other times with different platforms, and it failed. And it did not work with the other ones. We tried, we spent a lot of time, a lot of energy, and we could not make it come to completion. But with Zudy Vinyl, we were able to complete it. For Zudy's data connectors and the API integrations, it has been great so far. We've definitely had to integrate some older data that we brought over, and it's worked really well. It also has a lot of external things such as like Babel, and it also has like Google integration, which has been easy. Integrations aren't easy in general, but I would say that I'm very happy with how it's been to integrate with Zudy so far. The data integrations from Zudy that has been able to help me automate business processes and workflows has been very instrumental for building what I've wanted to build. Because Kong, that is the majority of what it is it's a ton of automations, because again, this used to be 50-60 hours worth of manual paperwork, and we're able to put it into processes that substantially streamline that down to an hour's worth of work, and the future things that I want to build anytime I go looking at documentation and I go looking at doing things, I'm like, I'll be able to do this. Whereas with other platforms and other things that I've tried to do, we were not able to do it. So this has been exciting for us. For the ease of use for vinyl for non-developers, I like it. I do have some technical background, uh, but it's something that I can go in, and I don't have the full stack development abilities, and I'm able to go in, and I love that I can make changes on the fly. When a customer says to me, hey, this button in this place doesn't quite make sense, I can move it. I don't have to call up a developer. I don't have to try and find somebody to do it. I'm very excited about that. It's been amazing to have that control myself and not have to try and explain to someone how I want to move the button, why I want to move the button, what is that supposed to look like. I've just been able to go in myself and do it, and I've found it to be relatively easy. It's a very complex thing that they're trying to accomplish, so it's nothing's it's not like super easy, but it's also not so difficult that a non-developer can't handle it. So as long as you can follow some instructions, you should be able to do it yourself. So the low code functionality and what I've been able to achieve with it has been a magnitude of 10 times easier than what it was previously. Again, we tried to build this 5 other times and failed. And I'm talking about years of development and multiple attempts. And so the fact that the code is just there, and there's so many of the minutia that's already all built out for me. I don't have to define the box, the line weight, and the size, and all the little details that I've had to do in the past. And it's not that I don't have control over that, it's just that I don't have to think about it ahead of time. And I also don't have to design for each iteration of iPhone and iPad and Android and computer size, and it just automatically adjusts. So a lot of those features have been absolutely instrumental, and we've been able to add in integrations that we were not able to achieve on the other platforms, and it's been wonderful. So Zudy's improvement on their own features has been good. I've been on the platform for about 8 months now, so I know that I've read a lot of things on what was version 1 and 2 and 3, but I can certainly submit things that I need to be improved, or I need fixed or improved. It does happen. They do listen to it. Obviously, you don't get everything you want because it's not fully custom, but no, they're always doing improvements. They're always asking for feedback. I really like that. They seem to take my feedback seriously and implement what they can. And they've got good help documentation, and they're asking for feedback on that. And yeah, I've been happy with their level of iterations and improvements. So for Zudy's updated UI and UX from 3.0 to 2. I think I was on 2.3. I was on 2.3 when I first started, and there was a pretty big leap between what they were doing on the UX side versus 3.0, and of course that always takes the user, myself, a little bit of time to learn some of the new tricks and stuff that they're doing. But it's been nicer. The previous one, I would say, was more technical and it wasn't as intuitive, and whereas the 3.0 I'm finding a little more intuitive, and it seems to be a little bit easier to use. So with Vinyl 3.0, am I able to be more creative with the system? I guess that hasn't been my focus right now. My focus is the Qualcomm logic. When I go back to my written documentation that I have, is thousands and thousands, probably close to 10,000 pages long now. And so the majority of what I've been doing is much more data modeling and logic rather than creativity. But again, because I have access to being able to edit certain things, it's been wonderful that I can go in and edit it. I don't have to wait for somebody else to move it around and see what that looks like and then decide I don't like it, or make another change. So I've been able to do a lot of those little micro iterations myself, which has been very nice. So for learning the new 3.0 compared to learning the 2.3 or 7, whatever number I was on, I'm sorry, I don't remember exactly what version I was on just before 3.0. I would say it would be easier if you're stepping into it and the first thing you're seeing is 3.0. If you're migrating, of course, you're used to a button being in a weird spot, then that's where you're going to go look for it. So when there's a change, it's always a little harder. Whereas if you're coming in fresh, hey, congratulations! You don't have to go through quite so much of the learning pains that some of us that have been around with the older versions have. But no, it was overall, it's been good. I've been happy with it. So for Zudy handling the data encryption and the user identities and the data migration and the databases and all of those authentication things, Zudy handles it very well. I have been very happy with it. Again, when you're having to build things from scratch, you have to build all of that out manually, and that is a difficult thing to do. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and I just didn't have that with this one. I feel confident with what they have. My research has said they've been doing it well. Security is very, very, very hard to do. You can do 9,998 things right, but if you do one or two things wrong, the bad guys will find it. And so from what I've seen, it hasn't happened. It's not that breaches are probably somewhat inevitable in some ways, but I think it's certainly a lot less likely because you didn't have to set up all of these things and know all these best practices, because it was done well for you ahead of time. So that's been a comfort to me, because of course I have a lot of data and a lot of security things that I am worried about, and I've been glad to be able to rely on Zudy. So other examples of how Zudy has helped QuoteKong and how our organization functions. It's the first time that someone was able to actually pull off my dream, the vision that I've had. And even working with some of the guys and things, everybody looks at what QuoteKong does and they think that because it looks simple, therefore the programming must be simple. It's not. And I've had far too many people and things assume that it is, and everybody wants to say they can do it. I've tried all kinds of different platforms. I'm not even, that's well above the 5 that I'm talking about. So I've tried lots of different things, and Zudy was the first one that not only could pull off the backend data modeling and the backflips and the crazy things that I needed it to do, but it could also handle the front end well enough. It's not a beautiful front end, but it is good looking. I'm happy with it. It looks good. There are some other solutions that I liked on the prettier end, but they couldn't handle any of the back end data. And I found other database backends that could handle some of the database stuff, but they didn't look pretty at all. And so this has been a great balance of good looking front end and all the power and the complexity that I needed to handle on the back end. And it's been a dream for me. It's been so exciting to finally get QuoteKongs out there for people to start working on. So for the time to market on kind of abilities and like new capabilities, it's absolutely sped me up. again, the last big charge that we really had at trying to build out Quote Kong, we were 3.5 years in development, and we could not get it to function because of all the complexity. With Vinyl, we were able to do that in 8 months, and every single new thing that we're adding is going to be quicker, easier, more integrated, and I don't have to go, I don't feel like I have to pull out another massive budget to try and add my next feature, because the next feature is going to be quite simple to be able to add, and I'm very excited about that. Vinyl allows me to be able to play with a lot of the backend data, and to be able to link all of my databases and understand where all my tables are sitting much better than what I was ever able to do with any of the other platforms I was working, or the other services I was working with. I'm able to handle many to many database connections, and Vinyl explained a lot of that really well if you take the time to do their courses, which are included with your subscription. And I should preface, it was included for me. I guess I don't know if they include it for everybody. But the ability to understand everything that's out there, like in my system, is critical, because again, there's so much minutia, so many little micro details. So I'm very excited that I get to go in and pull out all the data. Just last night, I was pulling out all the different database tables and all the connections so that I can see them separately and make sure that they're all where I want them to be. And I'm very excited about that. So the metrics for the data speed, like the development speed, the best thing I can tell you is that what took me 3 years and never did get finished, like we got it close, but I couldn't edit a lot of things. I couldn't import a lot of the things that I needed to. It was still not working right on different systems and different devices, and it would work for here and here, but over here it wouldn't. And then of course, if they opened up this browser, then that wouldn't work. And I don't have any of those problems. So I went from I don't know if that was ever going to get finished. If I even had another 2 years, maybe we wouldn't have gotten finished, to 8 months and it's ready. And how do you beat that? How do you explain the speed to that? And even in the 8 months, we have more features and more things that I wanted to include. We have more of those included in the first iteration than what we had after 3.5 years of building. What areas do I think that Zudy has room for improvements? There's always micro things, right? There's certain buttons that I want to have a certain feature that we can make it work, but it's a little tricky. I guess there's always going to be little things. Eventually, a nicer way to create my, certain features, like the way that we create PDFs, and the sometimes like some of the way that it resizes when I have multiple windows up and stuff. Minor stuff though, like it's edge case stuff that I haven't even, some of them I brought up to them, some of them I don't even bother, because I know that what I'd be asking for is very specific to me. And it's not that I won't ask, I will in the future. It's not worth my time right now. No, they're always looking for ways to change and improve. That's a big one, right? Like, because no one's perfect, no one's got all the answers. But are you willing to listen, and are you willing to understand the customer side of things? And I feel like they are. So for the original setup of Zudy, would I describe it as simple or complex? I'm starting off with an enormously complex ask, right? There's a lot of things that I'm trying to accomplish, and with a deceptively simple front end interface. And they were the first, they really understood what it was I needed. Even they underestimated its complexity a little bit, but they weren't so far off. Like, other people were way off. So it was a complex thing that we were able to set up, and so I'm very happy that we were able to set that up. It had some complexity to it, but it was overall it was relatively simple, especially for the level of complexity that I'm trying to build. The deployment for QuoteCon took 8 months. Yeah, that was about the same time that it took from when I started with them to when we, like, deployment and setup was the same time frame. Have I worked with any other third parties or outside consultants? Not yet. I'm starting to now. I'll have things that I will want to do for sure that's going to be outside. But for now, I've been able to do everything in-house. So I haven't had a lot of experience with trying to integrate other things. We are working on one right now. I'll be talking with them in an hour, actually, to talk about some of those integrations. So some of the other outside sources that I'm trying to integrate with, some of them are things like Stripe for my payments. They do that pretty well. I'm trying to do something called Log Rocket. That one is a little bit of an unknown. I know we've been able to integrate already with Google Maps, really unbelievably easy. In fact, I was demoing it for a client, and they had added it from the time that we talked about it the day before to when I was doing my presentation, and all of a sudden it was there. And it's because I was showing them in my dev environment, so it was cool. I've got lots of other plans. There's other measuring systems I want to integrate and things like that. But from what I understand of the API tools that we have, it should be relatively straightforward. Nothing's easy, but I think we'll be able to do that. The staff that I required for that deployment and the integration here, we did hire their development team to do that. I was working with two guys mostly, and they were able to pull off stuff in much faster times than what I was able to do on my own. Or sorry, not on my own, with my previous team, and with the team before that, and with the team before that. And so we've been able to accomplish a lot. I've been happy with that. And again, I'm able to get in there and dig around and understand. So I'm able to look at little micro things and say, oh, wait a second, that one particular column on that one particular table is not in the right spot. We have to move it because of some problem I'm going to have a year and a half down the road. So the transparency has been great, and I've been able to do it on a minimal amount of staff. So the number of people that are using Zudy Vinyl in a hands-on sense, from the back-end perspective, I've got 4 guys that are working on different things. And then from a customer perspective, we're still early days with the launches, but I'm at about 20 users that have been on it. They've been super happy with it. The fun part is that I built something that used to need 20 years of construction experience to be able to do. And my best beta tester is my mother. I love her. She is terrible when it comes to computers. And she's been able to use it as a customer perspective, and that's always been my goal. If mom can use it, anybody can use it. So that's been exciting to be able to get it to that ease of use and ease of simplicity. So my impressions of the stability of Zudy Vinyl has been fantastic. I used to have hundreds of bug reports a week. Like I would just find all these little micro things, and I'm like, oh goodness sakes, when I'm on this device and I do this, that crashes or that does, and I get things back from my customers, and boy, that has gone so far down. Um, you don't notice pain when it's gone. You only notice pain when it's there. And it's funny, until you asked me the question about stability, I'd forgotten how much pain I had previously of trying to get all these systems and implementations deployed, and how many problems it caused. So this has been very stable, and I've been very happy with it. So for the scalability of my Kong platform on the Zudy platform, I believe that I don't see the limits. And trust me, I've looked, and I have pushed, and I've prodded, and I've pulled, and I've tried all kinds of other solutions. And inevitably, I start finding some problem where when iterations get up into the high numbers, this is going to fail. And I haven't been able to find that with Zudy, and I've been very happy with that it'll be able to handle the massive scales that I want to be able to add on eventually. I haven't done it, so I can't prove that other than my anecdotal, but trust me, I am someone who digs and digs and digs, and I push and I prod and I pull and I do all kinds of things to break stuff, and I'm good at breaking things, and I have not been able to find a flaw yet that is catastrophic that I'm really worried about long-term scaling. The usage of Zudy Vinyl, we're using it almost exclusively for all of these functionalities that we're building out. Yeah, I'm very excited about all of the future things that I want to do. It's great because every time I come up with some wacky list of things that I want to accomplish, we're always able to find solutions that will make it work, and they're not workarounds, which is fantastic. So many times with some of the other builds, it's all workarounds, and that always scares me to death. And so no, the capabilities that we've had, the things that we've added, everything's being built in Zudy, with the exception of a couple of those outsourced things that I want. But payment system, I don't need Zudy to handle a payment system. We've got good payment systems elsewhere. I don't need Zudy to build Google Maps, but we hook into it and it works, so that's what matters. So no, I've been very happy with it, and like I said, we're very, very driven and dedicated to what we've got built here, and yeah, my customers are very excited about what we're presenting. My experience with Zudy's technical support has been good. They definitely take in the things that I'm saying. When there is a problem, they do try and find the problem and try and fix it. With the launch of 3.0, there were some hiccups. There were some things that kind of got pushed off to the edge that I had to remind them about, and they're like, oh, right, sorry. And so they brought it back up to the forefront, and they got it fixed. Yeah, so that's great. I mean, again, nothing's going to be perfect, but I've been very happy with the way they've been responding and the way that they take in my information. So the other solutions that I used prior to Zudy, so I actually built out the entire prototype in Microsoft Excel, and even Microsoft said, boy, that's a lot of stuff. We've seen Excel do some crazy things. Yours is way up there for complexity. There's hardly any that are more complex than what you just showed us. And that's Microsoft talking. And so I thought I had a great template that I'd be able to have people build off of, right? Because everything was working in there. And it wasn't the case, even though it was there and I had all the instructions. So we tried things like We tried things like FileMaker Pro. We tried things like Airtable and Webflow and UXPin and coding from scratch, and what else did we try? Bubble and MacGyver, and there's been a lot of things that we've tried, or at least that I've tested out, and then even just straight scratch HTML, starting everything from there, and yeah, we just couldn't make it go. So we were excited to finally be able to get everything working. So the pricing and the licensing of Zudy is reasonable. Pricing is always a tricky thing. Could be a little simpler, but they're doing good. I'm happy with it. I think there were a couple of miscommunications early on, just minor things, but they keep working with me and they keep trying to fix it. So that's all I can ask for. And yeah, I think I'll be able to scale up with this without any problems. When I did the math, everything looked good. And so no, I'm been happy with it so far. So aside from their standard licensing fee, they have just little things like if I'm using, I think it's AWS, and then they have a small rider on top of that. So whatever AWS is charging them, yeah, but that's fine. Saves me having to deal with it. I'm happy. I haven't really noticed any real gotchas. There's just been little things like if I want more speed, I can pay for more, but I haven't needed that yet. No, I haven't really seen any real gotchas yet. So the way I came across Zudy for the first time was just a lot of internet searches, and I'm someone who does a ton of research before I jump into anything. The one downfall I would say is that they maybe weren't as public facing, and they've admitted that. So I was hesitant to go with them at first just because they didn't have a lot of information that I could really dig up, and I think that's actually part of the reason why they're doing these videos, is to be able to get the word out, and get into the smaller and medium-sized businesses like myself. And so it was a lot of research, and it was a lot of checking, and it was a lot of comparing, and it wasn't until I talked to them and saw some of their demos that I really started to believe that maybe these guys can actually do it. So my return on investment for using Zudy, so far, I mean, all of my costs have been going into building things. I haven't, been able to go live with a lot of the things. Like we're live now, but just in beta form. So the return on investment is going to be hard to express, other than the fact that 3.5 years of wasted, not fully wasted development, but almost. Like I almost chucked everything we did out. And all of the false starts and all of the promises from other people and things. How do you put a value on that? I'm like I said, I don't have the raw numbers right now because we haven't really started in the sales, but all I can say is that it has taken us far less time to build this out than what it has with anything else. And the bigger part is that we actually crossed the finish line. So how do you put a value on that? The biggest lesson I've learned from using Zudy Vinyl is that there is so many things that you have to try and set up when you're coding from scratch, that I don't know that I'll ever want to code from scratch again. Not that I'm a coder, right? Again, I'm not a full stack developer. I know enough to be dangerous, but even the guys that I had, they were good guys. They were guys with a lot of experience, and they worked really hard, and they tried really hard and things. But they just we couldn't get it done. It was just too complex of a problem on top of all of the other little things you have to do when you're trying to code from scratch. So I liken it to the difference between drawing with paper versus using AutoCAD, and the difference between putting a roof on, shingling a roof with a hammer and nails versus with an air gun. Why would I ever shingle a roof without an air gun unless it's something really, really, really small? So, yeah, it's been no, I've been happy. The advice I'd give people if you're looking to implement Zudy is, first of all, I guess know what it is you're having to build. Like, what is it you're really trying to accomplish? But outside of some very small applications or gaming things, if you're looking to build some sort of business process driven website, something that you need both it to look pretty good in the front end, and you need a lot of calculations and tables, and you need some hoops to jump through, I can't imagine building it from scratch. And so I'd be happy to go with Zudy again. By far, there really hasn't been anybody else I've been able to find that has been able to compare with what Zudy's been able to do for me. It's not to say they're not out there, but I wasn't able to find them. So, and I do a lot of research. So, yeah, just know what it is you're trying to accomplish. Have it all, try to spell out as much as you possibly can, because the more you spell out, the easier it becomes to implement. So my rating for Zudy Vinyl overall, probably give it an 8 or a 9. Pretty high. Nothing's perfect, but I've been happy with them, and mostly I'm happy that I'm able to work with them and they work with me, and we always try and find a solution, or we table it to later, and which I'm fine to do sometimes. So no, overall I've been happy.